This week on The Other Side, fun and games from Canberra, which would be great if we weren't all paying for it. Penny Wong lost for words at a parliamentary hearing while facing tough questioning on the ISIS brides controversy. The Sex Discrimination Commissioner, meanwhile, doesn't seem to understand how sex is determined. That's worrying. Britain seems to have lost its mind with even more arrests of people in their own homes because of what they post on social media, and it's not really that offensive either. My take on the cultural shift in Australia and the battle between left and right. And Scott Challen, Shallow Chal and Joel Jammal will join me to discuss the upcoming March for Australia happening cities all across the country on Sunday the 19th. Lots to cover. Let's go. G'day Brisbane, and g'day Australia. This is episode 429 of The Other Side for the weekend commencing Friday, October 10, 2025. The Other Side's your deep dive on the important issues that matter in Australia and that affect us from around the world from a different, non-left-wing perspective. We always declare our bias right up front so you know what lens we're viewing things from, and we always try to keep it real and stick to the truth as much as we can by giving you the data and facts behind the stories that we cover. If you'd like to support us, pop over to our website at othersidetv.com.au or use the QR code on the screen. You can sign up there to help fund our work for less than $5 a month. And why did I say G'day Brisbane twice at the start of today's show? Well, one for the AFL Premiership and one for the NRL Premiership. What more can I say? We're allowed to have a bit of a gloat this month in the River City. Forgive me. It's always fun when Parliament sits, isn't it? It was another sitting week this week. Lots of focus on the ISIS brides story. In case you don't know much about that story, like I happily didn't a week ago, here's the brief backstory. In early 2019, in the Syrian war, the Islamic State group, ISIS, had its last stand in a place called Baghouz. There were a bunch of Australian citizen men and women associated with Islamic State who were captured and detained. Some of these Australian women had children that they brought with them to Syria. Some had children with Australian fighters while they were there. Some had children with foreign fighters while they were there. Some of the Australian men fighting had kids with women who were Syrian or from other foreign countries. It's quite a mess. In any case, this is not a group of people that we should probably have much sympathy for whatsoever. Can you really be a true Australian if you're fighting with a terrorist organisation like ISIS or sleeping with people who are? But anyway, this is 2025 and obvious common sense now takes a back seat to bureaucratic processes and rules. Now, this particular group in question, we don't know how many, but we know it was at least 2 women and 4 children, reportedly had paid people smugglers to get out of Syria to the Lebanese border, but they were denied entry to Lebanon once they got there. They claimed to be Australian, so the Australian authorities got involved. They undertook the DNA testing, they undertook ID checks, they decided that they were in fact Australian, and they issued them new passports. Now, on September the 2nd, this story broke in the Australian newspaper with reports that the government had facilitated their return home by issuing the passports and maybe arranging flights. It's also not clear if the Australian authorities issued all or some of the children citizenship by descent to help them get passports too. The Prime Minister was asked about all this in Parliament on September the 3rd, the day after the Australian news story came out. And he said then that the report simply wasn't accurate. Well, this Monday in Parliament, he went further and denied that the government was involved in flying this group back to Australia. And he said Australian citizens have a right to enter Australia, true, but that Australia did not provide assistance to this group. Now, all this was the focus of a very frustrating questioning exchange on Tuesday in a Senate committee hearing between the Liberals leader of the opposition in the Senate, Michaelia Cash, and Senator James Paterson, the Liberal Party's Shadow Minister for Finance and Government Services. They were both interrogating Labor government's Foreign Affairs Minister, Penny Wong. The exchange seemed to leave Senator Wong looking very unprepared and struggling to find the right words.
How was the Prime Minister able to say in the House of Representatives on Wednesday the 3rd of September that those reports were not accurate if he had not been briefed on the matter?
Okay, that's
a very good question.
I understand your discomfort.
No, it's not. I think it's just a sort of a clever way of asking the same question.
Thank you,
That's
Senator
all.
Wong. It's very kind, but I'd rather...
Well, I wasn't actually...
Clever in a catch
Clever
out
can
kind
be,
of way, I think.
clever can be both ways, but I take it positively. I'm fine with that. But
Yeah, or you could just have some respect for the Australian people and get to the point of the matter and answer the question instead of hiding behind process. The rest of Senator Wong's answer has no substance. It's all about process. And to be fair, she does have the right to take questions on notice and come back later, so technically that is allowed. Whether it's a good thing is another story. Senator Patterson pressed on regardless.
The government has said that they have not provided assistance to returning ISIS brides. How does the government define assistance?
repatriation assistance.
Okay. So does providing an Australian who has applied for citizenship by descent overseas through the Department of Home Affairs constitute assistance in your view?
It's not a question of what my view is.
Well, in the government's view, does that constitute assistance?
That is a matter for Home Affairs.
No, it's not. The Prime Minister has said
sorry,
the government did not provide assistance. Yeah.
I hadn't answered. If you want to ask me a question, let me answer. You can follow up.
How about we both do a deal with each other? I won't interrupt you if you don't interrupt me.
That is a matter for Home Affairs. They administer the Citizenship Act.
So Senator Wong is trying to say that she and the Prime Minister aren't responsible here. It's up to the Home Affairs Department. But Senator Patterson wasn't having a bar of it.
Except the Prime Minister has said the government did not provide assistance. And it is well established in this forum that we can ask questions about statements made by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has said the government did not provide assistance. Does the Prime Minister consider providing citizenship by descent to be assistance?
The government the government has been clear that we are not providing assistance to repatriate, and there is no plan to repatriate these individuals. Public servants, officials, acting in accordance with their obligations, I think is a separate matter.
Computer says no. There it is again, the bureaucrat's response, hiding behind process. Good process is important, yes, but it's secondary to common sense and truth. The left and bureaucrats, the managerial class of the public service, always put process and rules first and common sense second. It's supposed to be the other way around. And that's when things fall apart when you do that. Also, politicians are supposed to be the voice of the people, keeping the bureaucrats in Canberra and all their rules and regulations in check. They're not supposed to become the bureaucrats. But I guess when most of them have never had a real job, what do you expect is going to happen? Anyway, Penny Wong was still having trouble understanding simple, straightforward questions.
So does the Prime Minister or the government consider providing a passport to someone overseas to constitute assistance?
I'm sorry?
Does the government consider providing a passport to someone overseas to be assistance?
Again, that's a matter for DFAT.
No, I'm asking you about the Prime Minister and the government's view. He's made statements on the public record that the government has not provided assistance. I'm trying to determine what he believes assistance constitutes, and does that include providing a passport?
Yeah, there have been previous occasions where assistance was provided to repatriate Australian women and children from Syrian IDP camps. And I think they have been made public. They involved extensive planning, assistance from a number of Australian agencies, international partners, flights, etc. We are not providing such assistance.
Now, I shortened Penny Wong's response there by 13 seconds for brevity, which actually made her look better, not worse, just to be clear. The Coalition says the lack of details coming from the government side is akin to a cover-up. Senior bureaucrats from the Prime Minister's department told Senator Michaelia Cash earlier that they couldn't reveal how many wives and children had reached Australia because of privacy concerns. Senator Cash said the refusal to give even the most basic information to the Australian public was completely unacceptable and smelled of a cover-up. Senator Patterson himself told Radio 3AW in Melbourne later that it demonstrates complete contempt for the Australian people. We saw Australian citizens being denied entry to their own country during the COVID pandemic at the hands of a coalition government, I might add, utterly disgraceful. And I don't care if you've got to set up a camp in the middle of the Northern Territory to quarantine people if there actually is a real threat with the virus, but you don't get to deny any Aussie passport holders entry to Australia unless you have a very good reason not to, like maybe if they're terrorists and they've been fighting with a massive foreign terrorist organisation, then it would be a good idea. Do you see what I mean about common sense seeming to take a back seat in Canberra to bureaucracy and red tape? There is a thing called a temporary exclusion order, which the Minister for Home Affairs can use to stop a citizen from returning home if they have associated with a terrorist organisation while offshore. The law already exists. So the question is this: why didn't Labor's Immigration Minister, Tony Burke, use that power? He really seems to be a bloke who bends over backwards to keep speakers out of Australia who might say hurty words that aren't left-wing enough for him. But he's very happy to have terrorists here. SmartKits Australia is a leading supplier of prefabricated home improvement kits, so you can do it yourself, save money and hassle. SmartKits Australia is the easiest way to improve your home and build memories that last forever. Buy online, customise your way, get it built. That's the SmartKits way. Decks, patios, pergolas, flyover roofs, carports, and insulated roofing, all prefabricated, fully engineered, and delivered anywhere in Australia. You can choose from hundreds of pre-designed SmartKits on their website, or you can go custom with SmartKits' in-house design team. Every kit is engineered tough, packed smart, and delivered free anywhere in Australia. And don't worry if you're not so handy. If you need it installed, they can do that too. Their licensed builder network can get you started even faster. It's up to you. So save thousands on your own 100% Australian-made Smart Kit. Build your own outdoor lifestyles with SmartKits Australia. SmartKits.com.au, a proud sponsor of The Other Side. We're back from our spring break week off, a little time to think. The year is fast coming to a close, and what a year it's been. Australians voted for the most left-wing government they've had in half a century or perhaps ever. Not just Labor, but the Labor Party's most left-wing factions now have the majority, a big majority, in the House of Representatives, the lower house of our parliament. And with the even more left-wing Greens, they have a big majority in these, or a majority in the Senate, the upper house of our parliament too. State governments are ignoring the will of the people in the last major vote that was a victory for the centre-right in this country, the old voice vote. Remember that, the referendum? Many states are moving towards their own voices to Parliament with no regard for the will of the people or our democracy at all. And the country's main right-wing political party has taken a huge leap to the left in a move that seems to make little sense to political analysts and marketing experts alike. And as expected, it's seriously not working. Yet they persist. Meanwhile, in the mother country, we have an authoritarian Labor government policing speech and thought in a way that we never thought we'd see, with people actually still being arrested in their homes in Britain and taken away by the police for making pretty innocuous political posts on social media.
The time is 21:31. You're under arrest for what's referred to as Section 19.
Section 19?
Basically, Section 19 refers to spreading what we say like racial hatred. So you've posted something online that we believe is spreading racial hatred.
Twitter, Facebook, what?
I can't explain too much. It's just to give you the context beforehand.
Let me put you in interview.
If you've got stuff you'd like to gather, obviously I'm more than willing to talk through what you're able to take with you.
What, you're taking me away now?
Yes, so you're under arrest, so you're going to Harrogate, unfortunately.
You're taking me to Harrogate in the middle of the night over a tweet?
I am, unfortunately.
Is this what you signed up the police to do?
This is my role. I'm trying to be reasonable with you here.
So
If there's stuff you'd like to gather, I'm more than willing to allow you to gather some sort of stuff like medication, if you've got any numbers you need.
Oh, he's so sweet and polite and reasonable. They almost always are. When the authoritarian state puts its jackboot in these days, it's done ever so politely. Please pop on your shoes as we break into your home in the middle of the night and take you away against your will. And I can help you get any medicines you might need or anything before I mess with your sense of liberty, personal safety, psychology and human rights.
you join the police to go and arrest people at night for tweets online?
Do you need any medication? I can't imagine that you are going to be in very long, but do you need any medication that you take at night?
No.
No. Do you need anything else you can think of? Wallet? Do you want to change your shoes or out?
I'd like to put some shoes on if that's all right with you.
Of course it is.
Righty, huh?
We will give you a search here.
Search? What?
Yeah, just to make sure there's nothing in your pocket that you can harm yourself with whilst you're being transported in the van. We're going to do it in here rather than outside so all your neighbours can go.
Oh, fill your boots, mate. I'm good. You do understand I'm going to make the maximum fuss about this free speech union.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys just doing your jobs, obviously, but your dickhead bosses have just opened up a world of shit.
Trust me, if I didn't have to be here, I wouldn't have been. But I'm happy to give you...
I'm quite certain you two have got like 50 better things to do.
So the next time there are protests in the UK and people are arrested and the government and the authorities say, oh, it's the far right misbehaving, try to remember this. Try to remember who originally started it all. What in the world is happening with free speech in the UK? Based on what we know about this case, it seems that this man's tweet said, F Hamas. That's supposed to have offended this law, this Section 19 they were talking about of racial offence, causing racial offence online. F Hamas. So if you dump on a terrorist organisation, that is somehow racially offensive. How exactly? Hamas is not a race. The UK Daily Mail newspaper reported a few months ago that 30 people a day are being arrested like that in the UK for stuff they write online. The physical force of the police taking away their civil liberties, removing them from their homes in the middle of the night and taking them away, taking away your basic freedom in response to things that have been tweeted online. It's truly insane. These people aren't a violent threat in any way. One of the more high-profile recent cases is that of the former lead writer for the hit comedy shows Father Ted and the IT Crowd, a man named Graham Linehan. Spiked magazine in the UK reports that Linehan had only just stepped back onto UK soil when he was arrested by 5 armed police. Linehan's crime is that he simply will not accept gender ideology, and he joins people like J.K. Rowling and Aussies like Sal Grover and Moira Deeming who say that men identifying as women must not be allowed to enter women's spaces. Linehan was interviewed by the BBC. I'm about to show you a clip of that, but I want you to watch it on 2 levels. I want you to watch his responses, but I also want you to pay close attention to the nature and framing of the questions that are asked by the UK's taxpayer-funded national broadcaster.
For 8 years now, I've been standing up for women's rights and trying to get people's attention about what's happening to kids in gender clinics.
In one of the posts, Linehan says if a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he is committing a violent, abusive act. Make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls. I mean, that's insulting.
Sure, it's meant to be.
Suggests violence.
Sure, but as I say, women have a right to defend themselves from strange men in their spaces.
Do you regret tweeting that message now?
No, I don't regret I've tweeted. Everything I've tweeted, sometimes I've tweeted a little bit more out of anger because of the frustration at no one paying attention to this issue.
Even some on your own side say that sometimes you don't help their cause, your cause, because it would be better to act in a more civil way. Do you accept that?
No, I don't think I'm acting in an uncivil way. I will not change the way I speak, the way I act, because of the demands of a few entitled narcissistic men.
who would call themselves trans women.
Yeah, again, they're men.
Even some on your own side would say that, please, 70 to 80% of the population is on his side. After his airport arrest, Linehan says he was locked in a cell and interrogated by police. His crime, he says, was to have spoken his mind, one of the most serious offences you can commit in the eyes of the British state. As Spiked magazine notes, Linehan's belief that men aren't women is based on biological truth. It is the view of the overwhelming majority of British citizens. It has been upheld by the UK Supreme Court. It is also a protected belief in the workplace under the Equality Act. Yet none of this seems to matter to the UK's thought police. According to Linehan's account, a trans activist claimed offence, and so the Met swooped in, acting as the personal goon squad of the mad, bad and sad. The drama of this arrest sent Linehan's blood pressure through the roof, and he was taken to a nearby hospital emergency ward and admitted for treatment. On his Substack, he wrote, "I was arrested at an airport like a terrorist, locked in a cell like a criminal, taken to hospital because the stress nearly killed me, and banned from speaking online, all because I made jokes that upset some psychotic crossdressers. To me, this proves one thing beyond doubt. The UK has become a country that is hostile to freedom of speech, hostile to women, and far too accommodating to the demands of violent, entitled, abusive men. In a country where pedophiles escape sentencing, where knife crime is out of control, where women are assaulted and harassed every time they gather to speak, the state had mobilised 5 armed officers to arrest a comedy writer," unquote. Same point that the other guy we saw get arrested just made. How is this a good use of police resources that the police keep claiming are so stretched? This stuff alone should be enough to see Labor UK booted out of office in Britain for decades, and it no doubt will be come the next election. Spiked magazine says this insanity is no longer unusual, though. It must never, ever be seen as okay, however. What happened to Graham Linehan here is no aberration. This is simply what the UK is now, a nation that locks up comedy writers. We must never make the mistake of thinking any of this is normal. The Free Speech Union says they don't believe Graham's arrest or the bail conditions imposed were lawful, and they will be, quote, backing him all the way in his fight against these preposterous allegations and the disproportionate response from the police. We warned that when basic race and gender vilification laws were introduced in Western countries, including here in Australia, we've got plenty of them in Australia, way too many, we said these laws would be abused politically by the state, and we were told when they were introduced, oh no, they'll never be abused. This is just about protecting people from racism and mean slurs and sexism and discrimination and keeping you all safe. And yet here we are. The UK is in serious trouble. It's absolutely no surprise that we see the rise of Nigel Farage's Reform Party in the polls to new heights. It's now ahead of both major parties in the UK, or what were the major parties. It's something that the Australian Liberal Party seems to be missing and ignoring. We are living in very weird times indeed. Did you know that with a virtual private network or VPN on your computer, tablet or phone, you can log into your favourite streaming services like Netflix from home with an internet address from anywhere in the world and watch all the shows that they offer in other countries, including stuff in different languages? And using a VPN to route all your internet traffic through a third-party server means that big corporations and big government can't spy on you. If you sign up now with private internet access, we think they're the best VPN servers out there, as a viewer of the other side, you can get 83% off the price of your subscription and get online for less than $3 a month. Check it out right now. Go to piavpn.com/otherside. That's piavpn.com/otherside. It's a great service, a rock bottom price, and supporting our sponsor, you are helping to keep the other side going and growing. There's a cultural shift in Australia that's been going on for a long time, a shift that a lot of us knew was happening but didn't really understand fully. We've been told a lot recently that the left and right are becoming more polarised. that social media is playing a part in this, providing people with their own media to get information and locking them into echo chambers to reinforce views. But I wonder if this theory is totally accurate. I actually think what's happening and has happened is that Australians have been comfortable for decades now believing left-wing ideas are truth. And what's been happening lately is that the right is reasserting itself. And that feels like disunity has been created because it's uncomfortable and it forces us to think and it changes our minds on some pretty fundamental false assumptions of the left that we've been accepting perhaps a little too much for a little too long. These are ideas that just aren't working for us anymore. So maybe we haven't become more polarized. It's just that now there are two poles. And the old left, who had a grip on things for a long time, are being forced to listen to the right for a change. And they don't like it. In fact, they're not very good at it. They're used to just shutting the right down with cries of racist or bigot or greedy capitalist. And that old game, that old shtick, isn't working like it used to for them anymore. The murder of Charlie Kirk, while it's something that we in Australia once wouldn't have been too interested in, I guess, it's had a seismic effect right across the world, particularly in the English-speaking, culturally Western nations. It's not because of the horror of what happened to this poor young man and his family, but because of the left's reaction to it. We saw, for the first time probably, in full 8K high definition, just how psychopathic, literally medically psychopathic and inhumane, the widely accepted thinking of some of the radical left had become. Reactions like this one weren't the exception, but the rule among the left online.
This part of this whole thing is that he is not martyr material, so his death will mean nothing. It will activate no one. It will impact few. It's just great.
That's psychopathy, right? The loss of any sense of humanity or feeling for a tragedy. Now, of course, she's completely wrong. Charlie Kirk's death massively impacted people all over the world precisely because we saw psychopaths like that and we thought, wow, we knew leftists disagreed with us, but we never thought they were totally inhuman. This is a whole other level. If she was just one in a million, it'd be easy to ignore. But people like that were everywhere online. In episode 427, we brought your attention to the comments that were made by influential left-wing thought leaders in Australia, like Bob Carr, Barry Cassidy, Clementine Ford, Abby Chatfield, and the delightful Hannah Ferguson, all who we felt displayed a disregard for basic humanity in their responses and way too early politicisation of Charlie's murder. Afterwards, Hannah Ferguson, the young feminist who's only 26 years old, claimed, of course, that she was a victim of an orchestrated right-wing attack. There was nothing coordinated, Hannah. It was just a bunch of good people who do podcasts like me and people in the media like me who were responding at the same time out of human decency to your totally awful comments. We didn't need to call each other up on the phone for that and coordinate some attack. And I hate to break it to you, but you're not that important. So get out of your bubble and away from your posse of sycophants for a second. So we saw for the first time in 3D how awful these people could actually be. And it woke many Aussies and many people around the world up to the reality that all that fake kindness, compassion and niceness and social justice warrioring promotion and self-promotion and virtue signaling that the left like to do isn't just performative, it actually belies a very deep nastiness. We also simultaneously saw that Charlie Kirk, who we've been told for years is some kind of evil, right-wing, kooky, far-right Christian nutter, was actually one of the fairest, deepest thinking, kindest and most open-minded promoters of conservative values out there. The question then became, well, who's actually on the side of reality and truth and what is good? To work that out, we've got to first ignore the lie that the left and the right don't exist. They do. They are pretty easily definable worldviews, even though there are many slight variations and big variations. The left are people who are concerned mainly with government and state control of everything, firm in the belief that the government must fix all our problems, that it somehow has unlimited money and resources and smart people, and if only it were given enough power, we'd be living in utopia. The government is good. It should control most of the money and distribute it fairly, or should I say evenly, because evenly wouldn't be fair, actually. And since in Australia we've never known really, really bad government of the truly, totalitarian, murderous kind, like so many other countries have around the world. We tend to think that the government should step in and fix things, and big government is good. On the other hand, the right wing wants small government. They believe that individual property rights, the right to own and control your own stuff, is essential to human thriving, happiness, and achievement. The right believe that free people creating and trading freely in a free marketplace of ideas and production and commerce will lead to maximum wealth creation for everybody and much better, more positive outcomes for everybody. And the government should only play an umpire role and a physical protection role in policing and defence. On the social side of things, the left believe in the supremacy of the man-made state and lean to an agnostic or atheist worldview, seeing all cultures as equally potentially good or bad and all spiritual faiths similarly. The right want to return to moral standards of behaviour and character, humility, restraint, decorum, discipline and wealth creation that will enable us to look after the poor, sick and needy, rather than just sound nice talking about it. Now, most people sit in the middle somewhere. They believe in a combination of the two approaches that's best, and some flexibility is needed. And traditionally, the Australian Labor Party has leaned to the left and the Liberal Party has leaned to the right, giving Australians a choice. But in recent years, the left have become the most powerful and dominant and have shifted the public conversation, education, media, laws, regulations, the bureaucracy, hugely their way. They've captured our institutions, education at all levels now, tertiary, secondary and primary, the ABC, the mainstream media, public service bureaucracy, the managerial class, and even corporate bureaucracy through HR and PR and all the woke initiatives in corporate. And now the flow of investment capital itself through industry and union-controlled superannuation funds. Very, very clever, since in most countries the flow of money is usually the domain of the right and labour is the domain of the left. And they've captured our main conservative political party, it seems, by design or by default, we can't be sure. And the young, because they've never known any other Australia, seem to think this is normal. It's not left-wing, it's just the way things are. But the left got too confident in the past decade. They've been driving some pretty crazy ideas, mainly Marxist identity politics, or what we commonly call woke. The idea that our identity isn't our character or our behaviour or our values or our thoughts, but that it's which tribe we belong to based on race, gender, sexuality or age. Now, why would they do this? Well, because the left want to hang on to power by convincing us that there's always an oppressor and always an oppressed. That's critical theory. And it's attractive because if you're seen as a victim, there's benefits. And it's also very disempowering for the assumed victims. A point made clear in an interview that former Deputy Prime Minister and podcaster John Anderson did with renowned psychiatrist Dr. Ian McGilchrist of Oxford University a year or so ago. Watch this.
That's a very disrespectful way to look at people. It's untrue and it's disempowering. It's patronising. So, but if you say that people play a part in whatever societal plight they find themselves, then you're told that you're blaming the victims. But look, life is complicated. There's going to be some blame to be shared. There's going to be things that can be improved on both sides. But just to say it's all about an oppressor and the oppressed is very strange, particularly in a world where people, generally speaking, enjoy, well, until very recently anyway, used to enjoy more freedoms than in any other part of the world.
Psychiatrist Dr. Ian McGilchrist. And of course, only the left can fix things for all of us victims, right? With more rules and regulations and government, more power for them. But people have started to notice in recent years that this Marxist identity politics stuff is, well, nonsense. I mean, yeah, there have been times of oppression in the past and there's still oppression in pockets today. But mostly, the world has never known a better or more just period in history than that provided by modern, Western, capitalist democracies. Oops. So people started to call out this identity politics stuff in recent years. It got the common nickname woke. We labelled it, we branded it, and we called it out. And so the left's illusory oppression narrative started to die, which is just as well, because the notion that Western civilization itself capitalism and liberalism and anything even slightly right of centre is evil and bad, is going to destroy the best civilization that the world's ever known.
The breakdown of society is happening very, very fast. I don't know if we can survive it. You can't really take a sledgehammer to a culture repeatedly and only take this attacking position and then expect people to see another point of view, to believe there was something worthwhile that was achieved by this culture. And of course, it's extraordinary that it is the relatively tolerant, the most tolerant culture that the world has ever seen, that existed in the 18th and 19th centuries. That tolerant culture of different positions has led to people being able to take advantage of it and attack it wholesale and do things that are completely wrong, but they feel are justified.
Times might feel crazy right now, but that doesn't mean we're in bad times. We're in the middle of a correction, and that feels messy, but it's a badly needed correction, a good correction, and things will be better in the future for it. So don't worry too much. But we have to get involved. We have to remain vigilant, because the left do still have control of a lot of things, and they won't give them up without a fight. The UK will eventually have a non-left government again. The US already does and is fixing things up. That's going to get really messy. Australia will too, soon enough, as soon as the right get their act together and stop shooting themselves in the foot by reading the tea leaves wrongly. So stay positive. A great way to support the other side is to support our sponsors like SmartKits Australia, the best supplier of do-it-yourself prefab home renovation kits. And it's not just carports. SmartKits do decks, patios and pergolas, flyover roofs and insulated roofing too. All prefabricated, fully engineered and delivered anywhere in Australia. And if you're not too handy, they'll install it for you too. Get onto it. smartkits.com.au.
You're watching The Other Side with Damian Coorey, Australia's best independent news commentary show, bringing you up to speed on the issues that matter most. Simply subscribe for free on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button and bell, so you'll be notified whenever we post anything. And to really stay in touch, check out our independent website at othersidetv.com.au. You can sign up for free there too, or join the exclusive side and help support our show for less than $5 a month. This is The Other Side.
Well, the March for Australia is back. There's going to be another march on Sunday, the 19th of October, next Sunday. And joining me in the studio at the Other Side studios here in Brisbane, once again, the city that is home to both the NRL and the AFL premiership trophies, but I don't want to rub that in too much. But we've got our good mate of the show, Scott Challen, local businessman and all-round great guy and organiser of the March for Australia, also known online as Chal. Welcome, Scotty. Good to have you back.
Thanks, Damian. Great to be back here again, talking about something that we're passionate about, Australia.
And we've got in Sydney, Joel Jammal joining us, mate. How are you? Very good to have you from Turning Point Australia.
No, very good, Damian. Thanks again for having me back. Pleasure.
All right, guys. So last time around with the last March for Australia, it was all this controversy about, are the neo-Nazis in charge? Should we march? Shouldn't we march? This time things are a little bit more straightforward, right? And a bit better organised. Do you want to sort of kick off on giving us the background of where we're at on that, Scott?
Well, we'd like to think that we're better organised. We've certainly put a lot of effort into creating a great event for October the 19th. March for Australia will be going ahead nationally in every capital city in Australia, as well as multiple regional centres. This is a movement that is growing, that people are engaging with, and we are activating the Australian patriots out there to get behind their flag and support their country, because we're drawing a line in the sand and enough is enough. It's time to move.
Yep. And Joel, in Sydney, I know the Brisbane one last time we talked about on the show was very, family oriented. There were a few unsavoury types that showed up, but they weren't able to sort of get any traction or have any control. There was a little bit of concern in Sydney about the neo-Nazi guy grabbing the mic and then the media focusing only on him. But of course, it was basically a pretty good event last time. This time, though, you're 100% behind it because you had your own concerns last time.
Yeah, no, look, last time I just said, look, if you're an adult, it's a free country. Go if you want to go. That's what I said on the program last time I was here. But look, we were right. The hot centres of Sydney and Melbourne, there was scuffles, especially in Melbourne. There was very clearly violence. But now that we know what happened and what could happen, we're kind of a bit more comfortable being like, hey, last time it was a very big PR success. We saw a lot of great people that marched. We saw millions of views of people, including a lot of immigrants, saying, hey, we've got to end immigration. We've actually got to stop it here. We've been here for 30, 40 years, some people saying. There was one Indian lady, there was 1 million views on this clip of her in Sydney just saying, hey, immigration's completely run away. We've got to bring it back. And I think that as a PR win, it was a very big PR win. And so, look, for this particular March for Australia, we know what we're getting. We know that the vast majority of Australians, they do want immigration to be ended, pulled back, even stopped. And I think that that is something we've got to really lean into. However, I will still maintain, if you're in Melbourne, don't take your kids. I strongly recommend not taking your kids. I think every other city is going to be perfectly fine for kids and all of that. But for my own conscience, I just wanted to make that absolutely clear.
Okay. So, but who's organising it, Joel, in Sydney? I mean, and in Melbourne, do you know? Like,
my understanding in Sydney is it is going to be the same as last time. Beck Freedom Online, she's seen that I've thrown my support and I've said people should go to Sydney. In Melbourne, it's still a bit like last time, a little bit shadowy. Scotty might have a better idea of exactly the Melbourne side, but again, it's not entirely clear exactly who or where they're marching exactly in Melbourne and who the actual face of it is. But again, I have not been following it as closely as I probably should have.
Scott, do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you need to remember as well is that this movement has been targeted hard by politicians, by the media, by the mainstream that do not want to see ordinary Australians put their heads above the parapet and say that we have a problem here. So the secrecy behind organisation, the controversy that surrounds that, I know that people want exposure and they want to be able to say, okay, there's a face here. We need to remember that these people are being targeted. You know, I've copped a lot of flack online and the businesses have been hit as well because that's how the opposition to these movements operates in Australia. So
when you say you've got flack, who from?
Well, what we've seen is a coordinated movement against us by people like the Palestinian Action Group and the left in Australia and the mainstream media. They want to go after people that are questioning the narrative around mass immigration. Now, we also need to understand what mass immigration is in Australia. There's the immigration where we're bringing residents in, and then there's the temporary visa holders. We really need to delineate that because this is the real problem here. 2.7 million people in Australia are on temporary temporary visas here right now. That's 10% of the Australian population. Now, if we're going to say, or the government's going to tweak this permanent arrivals number, from 200,000 back to 100,000, but still bring in 2 million temporary visa holders, nothing changes. We need to be really clear about what our focus is here, and that's getting control of our borders, because clearly the government doesn't have it right now. Now, if you go against the narrative or the vested interest that makes money, that spreads ideology, that undermines our Australian culture by bringing in lots and lots of people from overseas, then we become the natural target of their focus. Okay. So we've got to be really clear about this.
You're copying it from the left.
Copying it.
And you're copying it from the far right too.
And we're copying it from every direction right now. Your average Australian is sitting in the centre here just getting beaten up by all of these special interests, by all of these people pulling the strings in the government here, and they are just trying to tell us that we are all racist and all Nazis. That's really easy to label everyone and try to get us to pull back while all of these special interests take over our country.
It's a very delicate debate because it does attract racists and Nazis.
Of course it does.
And it's hard because, a lot of us are immigrants. We've all, if you go back and you could look at
everybody says that. You all come from immigrants. You all come from immigrants. What we actually come from
is settlers. We
all
come from immigrants.
We come from settlers.
We mostly do, and it's many generations, and you're right, they're settlers.
Yeah. They forged a nation.
I like that distinction. Yeah,
they forged a nation out of somewhere that was completely barren, completely hostile, and didn't really want you here. We've built a fantastic country. We're sick of pretending that it isn't awesome, and it's time to raise our flag for our people. Look, these other states, I'm not in control of them. I can only work with my group here in Brisbane, in Queensland. But we know, as Joel mentioned, that we have seen successful events in other states, and we're encouraging people to turn out for that. This is the time to stand for your country.
We don't seem to have any concerns. We're not hearing any problems coming out of Perth, Adelaide, Canberra was great last time. I know that. Bettina Arndt went down there. She told me it was excellent.
Yep.
So Brisbane was great. Sydney was pretty good.
The
it really
regionals
just
were
seems to be
fantastic as
Melbourne
well.
that's the centre of problem. But in Melbourne last time, there was also that situation of the Antifa or the rally, the PAG rally. I don't know if they have PAG in Melbourne, but the Palestine and
Action
Left
Yep.
rally that happened. I don't know who was organising that, but it was on the same day. And we had that situation where those two rallies came together, and that's where the violence was. The cops didn't keep them apart. And I think you made the point afterwards when we were on the show, you were sort of saying, well, that might have been not accidental that they weren't keeping them apart.
Well, let's face it, the Victorian government is a socialist communist government that hates nationalist movements. They hate
Yeah, Shallow Chal, at Shallow Chal, for all our Melbourne and Victorian viewers that would like to respond to that one, just don't send the mail to me.
Mate, look, I was born in Victoria. I love Victoria.
Yeah, I
I've
love
got a
Victoria too.
special
I lived
place
there
in
twice.
And you know, I grew up, I spent some time growing up there. I love going down to Melbourne. I really do. But I'm also acutely aware that it is intrinsically bad for nationalists and for Australians right now. The government down there hates us. And so they're going to do everything they can to try and disrupt this movement, which means encouraging action groups like we saw down in Melbourne to turn up and to counter-protest it and to be violent in their behaviour.
All right, let's just say that this is going to be a good event. There's no reason not to go. Maybe if you're in Melbourne, don't take your kids, like Joel says, but it's going to be fine. Everywhere else is going to be a lot of fun, actually. You had a great time.
I would march in Melbourne in a heartbeat, mate. I would not hesitate to turn up in Melbourne. And maybe next time you'll see me in Melbourne. I'd love to march down there.
You can get to go to areas. You can stay away from the trouble zone of any big march or rally. There might be a few jerks, and you just
there's going to be jerks in Brisbane. You know, 50 ragtag,
Really? We have jerks in Brisbane?
50 ragtag, badly smelling, semi-commie, face masked Antifa types with their soy lattes are going to turn up pretending that they're hard, and they're not. They're soft, and they'll be told.
Yeah, once again, at Shallow Chal, if you want to.
That's right. Send that to Shallow Chal.
That's right.
I'm not scared.
Sorry, Joel, jump in, mate. Yeah.
Mate, if I can just say, people have to turn out, especially in Melbourne, because we know the majority of people in Australia, including the majority of immigrants, they do want to actually see the immigration to be lowered. But we need these protests to be a cross-section of Australia. We want to put the best possible foot forward so more people can come on board from the mainstream. Now, look, when I see what happened in Melbourne last time, there is safety in numbers. So you should come out. Absolutely, you should come out. But as I said last time, look, we saw a lot of violence. And again, look, I'm no fan of the NSN, but they had an argument to say, hey, we had to secure the area. Like, if we just had average good people rock up and we didn't secure that area, they would have been beaten up by Antifa. And it's as simple as that. And so Melbourne is a unique case. You have to apply yourself now. You cannot wait in 3 years. You may not have that chance. You have to apply yourself now. You need to make yourself known. And look what happened. We had 2 weeks of non-stop articles, non-stop discussion by our politicians talking about immigration, whereas previously they weren't touching it.
Yeah.
We need a referendum on immigration. We need to actually bring this to the forefront. And I'm very excited to see what happens after the 19th. And don't forget that after that protest, we've got Albanese being grilled by Trump in the White House on the 20th, which is going to be the 21st Australian time.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is going to be, I think Shallow Chal said that was his favourite tweet all week that he saw.
I can't wait to see that because, as we know, Trump is the master of the ambush in the White House there in the Oval Room. If he gets Albo there and we manage to get some footage of the March for Australia up on the television and Albo goes, and Trump says, why aren't you listening to your people, Prime Minister Albanese? Could you imagine the look on his face? So, Patriots out there, let's see if we can't retweet that when we throw up that content.
Yeah, that'd be exceptional. I want to talk a little bit about, look, I mean, the whole world, we've been talking on the show this week about this craziness that's going on with the left, and things are getting bad. In the United States, we've got Tucker Carlson talking about, there's 2 divided nations and we're heading for civil war. We've got people in the UK, academics, talking about civil war. I think all that's a bit overblown because I think we can still have our parliaments and our Congress to sort of sort these things out. But we've got pretty serious stuff going on. I don't think people realise. We only hear about the threat of the domestic threat of the far right in Australia. We don't hear about the domestic threat of the far left. And the far left are a lot more organised. They do these attacks better. I mean, you guys are much closer to that, thankfully, than I am, because I sit in the mainstream a bit more. But tell me what you've experienced and how bad you think this far left thing is going. Maybe start with you, Joel. I mean,
look. Donald Trump's listed Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. This has come not long after the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I'm not sure if that's connected or not. But when I look at what's going on in Australia, Albanese is shown no appetite to deal with the far left. Zero. They've set up a new department in the federal police to basically go after those that are inciting discord online in the social media world. And we all know who this is going to target. We all know who this is going to target. It's going to target Christians. It's going to target nationalists. It's going to target anyone that demonstrates any kind of pride in their white skin color, anything at all. And that's a problem. It's got to be opposed because the country was literally made by those people. So they are destroying the very thing that made Australia great. That is an enemy to anyone that was attracted to this country in the first place, and it has to be opposed.
Yep.
Yeah, our she'll be right attitude's definitely been weaponised against us, especially on the conservative side of politics. Look, the far left are the far left. They're encouraged and they're fed by, the political class in this country. They own the bureaucracies, they own the universities, they own the, as you said before, Damian, on your own show, they literally own the centres of power in this country right now. And that's because we've bowed down to it. We've succumbed to it. We've kind of let that fly. But this movement is all about trying to activate people to say enough is enough, get engaged in your local communities and draw the line and say, hey, I'm not happy with the way this looks. Look, Antifa are a terrorist organisation. They need to be labelled as such in Australia and they need to be shut down. But, our government panders to them because that's the ideology of the universities that they've come through.
All right. Okay, guys, we'd love to talk more about this stuff, but I do want to move on to other topics. I want you to stick around and join us because we've got some a very interesting story coming up in a moment about our Sex Discrimination Commissioner. So we'll get into that in a sec. If you like The Other Side, one of the best ways you can support us is by signing up for the products of our sponsors. And one of our best sponsors is PIA VPN, the virtual private network that stops people spying on your internet activity. It'll keep you and your family truly safe from the prying eyes of big governments and corporations without slowing down your internet speeds. And you can watch Netflix or other streaming services using your regular accounts with them as if you're viewing from any country in the world. You can sign up for less than $3 a month and get a whopping 83% off the normal price. Just go to piavpn.com/otherside to sign up and you'll get the discount. And you'll get more info on those special deals if you check it out. That's piavpn.com/otherside. As we mentioned at the start of the show, federal parliament sat this week. Always a lot of fun and games in the House and the Senate, and especially in the committee hearing rooms where pollies get to grill the bureaucrats, the pen-pushing public servant management types on our behalf, allegedly. Putting the Karens and the Kevins, whose whole lives depend on making up rules and regulations to keep the rest of us in line, in the spotlight and making them accountable for a minute or two. And this week, it was the Sex Discrimination Commissioner's turn. Now, you'd think somebody who got paid more than $400,000 a year to be the Sex Discrimination Commissioner would be able to discriminate on sex. They'd, at the very basic level, understand what a man is and what a woman is. Well, you'd be wrong. Our Sex Discrimination Commissioner, Dr. Anna Cody, has a Bachelor of Arts and a law degree and a PhD from the esteemed University of New South Wales. She even went to Harvard for a while. She's not short of an education. But it seems her education was confined to neo-Marxist left-wing gender ideology and critical theory. Because when she was asked about a recent high-profile sex discrimination court case by One Nation Senator Malcolm Roberts, she had a little trouble with her answers.
Roxanne Tickle is not a man. She is a trans woman, and so she has gone through various processes and has transitioned, and she's a trans woman.
What sort of chromosomes does she have? XX or XY?
I can't answer that, Senator.
You can't?
No, I can't answer that.
Wow. Let's come back to that. Can someone who was born on XY chromosomes change to XX chromosomes? A male change to female?
I don't believe so, but I'm not a scientist. If their chromosomes are XY, then their chromosomes, I don't believe they can change, but as I repeat, I'm not a scientist.
She keeps saying she's not a scientist. You don't have to be a scientist to know that XX chromosomes can't be changed to XY. You just need access to Google. And for $400,000 of your tax money every year, I think this nice woman might be able to afford a computer or a phone, don't you?
If a woman took a case to court today, Dr. Cody, trying to stop a person with a penis who identified as a female going into a women's bathroom, which side would you be arguing for if you were there as a friend of the court?
Could you repeat that,
Sure.
Senator?
If a woman took a case to court today, trying to stop a person with a penis who identified as a female going into a woman's bathroom, which side would you be arguing for if you were the friend of the court?
I would need to know more facts, Senator. I can't make a judgment on that in particular.
Joining me to discuss this madness are our special guest panel this week. From Sydney, the host of the ARC podcast and head of Turning Point Australia, Mr. Joel Jammal. And in our studio in the Great River City, the Olympic City, the home of both the AFL and the NRL premiers, not to rub it in, Mr. Scott Challen, entrepreneur, commentator, also known as Chal online. Guys, and you are the organiser of the Brisbane leg, I should point out, of the March for Australia, which is happening Sunday, October 19. Giving it a bit of a plug. Get out, folks. It's a march for Australia for many different issues, for many different reasons, but primarily around the immigration issue, the excess immigration issue. No one's opposed to immigration. It's just the excess mass immigration. And it's a family-oriented sort of event. You can see the website on screen now, and the locations are there on that website, marchforaustralia.org.
Yeah, bring the family, bring your daughters, bring the real women with you, and come and have a great time. We've got a live band playing as well, doing some great Aussie rock covers, and it's going to be a really awesome day, October 19th.
So how do you feel about the Sex Discrimination Commissioner not knowing what a man is or what a woman is, or being able to even define those things?
Well, she's doing exactly what she was employed to do. She was employed to obfuscate what gender is within our country and to undermine the social cohesion within the fabric of our society. She's there to further tear up the social contract. Now, I have a wife and 4 daughters. I clearly know what a woman is. And if you ask them, they would tell you what a woman is. And when you talk to any rational female out there, most of them are absolutely horrified when they see the discrimination commissioner like that answering questions in that way, because they know that this is subverting our Australian culture.
Yeah. Joel?
Mate, I don't know why people pay taxes anymore. I really don't. I mean, if this is the best we have to offer as a nation, to throw someone on $400,000 a year plus benefits.
Yeah, that's base salary. That's base salary.
It's actually insane. When I look at this, I don't know why people aren't in more outrage. And she's not even in the top tier of those being paid as bureaucrats. And I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. If
Well, you don't see these people, do you? Like, they're just under the radar. They're like, this is the silent bureaucracy. This is what they talk about when they talk about the deep state. It's not some weird conspiracy. It's just the bureaucrats that we don't hear about that are sitting there doing stuff all the time. And it's why we have to get through the apathy, the political apathy in Australia.
Well, I would argue,
because we sit around going, I don't care about politics. I don't want to listen to that. I don't care about politics. Well, okay, but it's going on.
Yep.
They're doing little things and they get away with. This is the sort of thing they get away with.
Yep.
And it goes under the radar because nobody's sitting up going, I care about this and I don't want to.
Well, I personally believe that her role there is to get more female lawyers into government, into politics, and then they call that, gender equality. But what we're seeing here is the bureaucracy is being taken over by these female lawyers now. And they've got nothing against the ladies. Great, go get a law degree.
It's the left female lawyer. It's it's not women.
And it's the feminisation of everything.
Women.
It's the feminisation of everything. We live in a matriarchy disguised as a patriarchy to try and destroy the family unit within this country. That's what their objective is.
Bold words at Shallow Chal.
Yeah,
I do love having
Damian, when I look at this stuff seriously, I love how some parties have taken this approach. I believe Jared Rennick at the last election, One Nation at the last election, they have earmarked billions of dollars, tens, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of waste that has to be cut. We need a national audit of our government. We need a Department of Government Efficiency, or a DINGO, as some people call it, to go through Canberra, cut everything out, and actually highlight that and bring it to the interest of the people so they vote for those parties. We've got to take a chainsaw to Canberra. It's ridiculous figuratively.
We need Javier Milei and his chainsaw, his metaphoric chainsaw.
Well, let's also remember as well that it's illegal. I own businesses. I've been in business for 16 years, employed hundreds of Australians. It's illegal for me to pay women less. It's illegal for me to discriminate in the workplace. All of this stuff, we've already got the laws in place.
Yeah, why do we need
what
a
is she actually
commissioner? What is
doing?
she doing?
Yeah, exactly
If
right.
you break the law, you go to police come.
Now
that's the system. You go to court. You don't need a commission.
She leads a department that has a budget. It's probably millions and millions of dollars.
It's 40 million. Okay, so I looked it up. This budget, this division is just the commissioner, the Sex Discrimination Commissioner sits under the Human Rights Commissioner office, another one I don't think we need. And you can't get the budget breakdown for her bit, but the whole thing is 41 million in 2022-23.
Yep.
41 million. Okay, to government people, that's not going to sound like it's going to change the world if we stop spending 41 million on this. But it's how many of these have we got? It's like you say, Joel. We need a chainsaw. We need a Doge type thing or a dingo to go in there and just knock it to bits, right?
We live in a society that has an epidemic of male suicide right now. What is her department doing about that? I can guarantee that isn't even in the top 10 list of things that they are dealing with.
Thank you. That is absolutely spot on, and it's.
Well, it's true. It's a leading killer of men aged between 20 and 45 right now.
Yeah.
You're 6 times more likely to suicide as a male in that age group. I mean, and then add veteran or ADF service into that as well, and then you triple the statistic again. I mean, the whole thing's a complete joke. And the fact that they're not talking about those kind of things, which are the real issues in our society, further undermining the family unit, the Christian values that we should all be sharing in this country. This is just another government department selling an ideology.
Yep, exactly.
Chal.
All right. So, Claire Chandler from the Liberal Party, I thought did a good job. She's only 35, Claire Chandler. She's the Shadow Minister for Cybersecurity and Science, and she's a senator from Tasmania. She also grilled the the Sex Discrimination Commissioner, Anna Cody. Let's have a little look at that clip. Thanks, John.
You said in response to a question about the protection of women's rights under CEDAW that we are not one version of woman. Now, last I checked, a woman is an adult human female with XX chromosomes. So what did you mean when you said we are not one version of woman?
That there is a great diversity in who we are as women, so that includes culturally, racially marginalised women, First Nations women, women with disability, lesbians, trans women, non-binary. There are a range of people who identify as women who are women.
Did you mean that biological males can be women?
Men. So I think that we have different language that perhaps you're using than I would use. So I don't understand the term biological men.
Right. This might be a short tranche of questions then.
Yeah, a very short tranche of questions. It should be a very short term for the Sex Discrimination Commission and Commissioner, period. I mean, that was directly, and these people are so immersed in this they don't see it, but everything she said there, all those distinctions of types of woman she made, relate to neo-Marxist identity politics and critical theory. This is an ideology. That is an ideology. That's not a reality that we're seeing there, right? And it's bizarre. We listen to it and go, this is nuts.
Yeah. Complete fracturing of your society. Let's break all these women down into these individual identities as well.
Yeah. And they're all gender, sexuality, race, Indigenous. It's not
nothing that makes society
not an engineer
better.
And a lawyer and a teacher and a nurse and a mother, God forbid, a mother. None of that. It's just this is the way we're breaking it down. We're breaking it down on these gender and race and things. Joel, any thoughts on that?
I just don't know why we don't look at their resume and just rip it up and say, excuse me, you're not certified to do this job. You have been overeducated. And you've given us this resume. You're supposed to understand these basic concepts, and you're meant to be in charge of taking care of a lot of these men. And then you actually don't end up even knowing what the difference is. I mean, you are not certified to hold this job.
Yeah.
Get out.
Here's my issue with it, right? And again, I'm getting a bit excited here, but because this stuff really annoys me. But the problem is that we've got probably 70% of Australians are watching that clip like we are going, that is just garbage. Why do we even have this? And the other 30% are going, yes, she's exactly right. This is all very accurate and very correct. And it's mainly I hate to say it, Joel, it's mainly the younger demographic. But so just back to you. I mean, this is the Hannah Ferguson, Clementine Ford, Abby Chatfield space. As someone who's actually had to face those women online, what's your take on what's happening with the young?
Well, I'm pleased to say it won't be the last time I face those people. I've got a few things booked in, so I won't say who. But look, we have the. I hate to say it, but these people all have a vote, and that's not a woman thing. They're our fellow Australians, and sometimes I will be wrong. Sometimes they will be wrong. We have to make the argument. We have to do it with love, humour, and the best of intentions, and we need to bring these Aussies along the ride with us. Some of them will come around. Some of them will never come around. They're lost forever. But we got to keep trying, because there's a lot of young people in America and the UK. They're turning back to Christianity. They're turning back to the traditional values. There is a turning point with regards to that. And the beautiful women, especially in America and the UK, they have a very good finger on the pulse with regards to the culture. And that's why we're seeing this rise of so many trad wives in America and the UK. They're actually speaking up because they're realizing, hang on a sec, we need the men. We need women to actually speak up as well and shut down what's going on, because this affects women and kids as well.
At Joel Jammal. At Joel Jammal. Scott Chal. To you.
Spicy episode.
Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree with Joel, actually, because, post the 31st of August March for Australia, which is about ending mass immigration, but let's be clear here, it's a movement that's identifying where the fractures and fissures are within this multicultural mess and soup that we've created. This is part of that. A lot of young people reaching out to me going, how do we get involved? How do we get activated? We don't like what's happening here. I'm really encouraged seeing that, because I think we're empowering a generation of younger people in our country. They will demonise that by saying it's the Americanisation of Australia.
Oh, yeah, we're getting
and
that
we saw
now.
those stories in the last
like
week.
Trump now.
You're just trying to
America.
Americanise the politics. And I dismiss that completely. Totally. All we've done here is get people to recognise that Australia is an amazing place and there's nothing wrong with being proud of it. And we can raise great families, have a really stable society, a flourishing society, a thriving society. The discrimination.
Well, give women choice.
100%. If you want to choose to be a stay-at-home mum, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, so let's empower you to do that. 100%. And why not financially incentivise that? Instead of financially incentivising corporate daycare centres that are there and designed to to feed ideology into your children so that they're prepared to go into the soup that is the education sector in this country.
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you for your time once again. Great to have you on the show. We'll have you back soon, I hope. Maybe after the marches, we can have a bit of a chat. So Sunday, October the 19th is the day, 12 o'clock, 12 midday in every city and
bring your dancing shoes. Bring your dancing shoes in Brisbane. We're gonna rock. We're gonna have a great time.
Music. Marchforaustralia.org.
I'm very jealous about Brisbane. Very jealous. I wish it was just round the corner.
Well, we have to get you. Well, we should get you up here, mate.
A lot of people coming in.
A
lot of people coming from interstate for Brisbane for this one. It's going to be big.
Yeah, we are doing a national stream, so I'd like to think we're going to be covering Brisbane. But if I go up and I enjoy it for myself, no one will do the national stream, so I've got to do that. But look, I'm really looking forward to seeing Brisbane. It went off last time. People had a lot of fun, and short.
Sorry, mate. I almost forgot to plug your national stream, and I do recommend watching it. Joel did a great job last time of just getting cameras out in most cities, and then you were sitting there in that room, in that studio you've got there in Sydney, switching between computers all by yourself, and it was unbelievable. It was just a great way to watch it. So thank you for doing that, mate.
The only reason we're doing it is because we want to get in front of the narrative. The mainstream media wanted to paint it 100% as a Nazi thing. We streamed every speech across the country except Perth, because they went for 2 hours. But we streamed every speech so that people could get the news, get it up front, and the media... we snookered them. We got 500,000 views. They couldn't paint it exactly how they wanted it. We just painted it as it was. And we saw that with the commentary. The Liberals were like, look, sure, there were some bad actors, but for the most part, there are a lot of people, a lot of immigrants, a lot of Aussies from all over Australia that said, hey, we've got to end immigration. And that's why we do the stream. It's not for me. It's not because we make a lot of money on it. We really don't. It's because we need truth, and we need to get in front of the mainstream media and hold them accountable. And that will help with the pollies.
All right, guys. Well, thanks very much for being on the show once again. The website is marchforaustralia.org. Make sure you check it out to find out where the march is near you for Sunday, October 19. And that's all for this episode of The Other Side. Your analysis of the best news and commentary without the woke. We'll be back with episode 430, our 30th episode for this year, next Friday, October 17. And clips from the show will be dropping out through the week, throughout the week, as usual, on our YouTube, X, and Rumble channels. If you like what you see, please do support us. We are a voluntarily viewer-supported show. There are now two ways to support us financially. One's to go to our website at othersidetv.com.au and sign up to the exclusive side for less than $5 a month. Or you can now subscribe right on YouTube, if that's where you watch, by simply pressing the join button beside the subscribe button down below. That's easy. I think we're up to 299 followers on the website, and we've got about 38 or something on YouTube. That's not enough to keep going next year. We really need to get that up to about 1,000. So please help us out. It is pretty easy. The QR code at the bottom of the screen will take you to the website to sign up. And then YouTube doesn't take a cut, but it's totally your call. Either way is good. I'm Damian Curry. Bye for now.
The Other Side with Damian Curry is Australia's best independent news commentary show, bringing you up to speed on the issues that matter most. Simply subscribe for free on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button and bell, so you'll be notified whenever we post anything. And to really stay in touch, check out our independent website at othersidetv.com.au. You can sign up for free there too, or join the exclusive side and help support our show for less than $5 a month.